Hi guys, so yeah, we are going to talk about the Dunu DK3001 Brain Dance or BD. That I know that's a mouthful. Thank you so much Hi-Fi Go for sending this over. And of course, Dunu, they're a known brand. We all know that. They're a known brand. They've released a lot of good sets. You know, they've collabed with a lot of, you know, reviewers. Recently, I think it's getting a lot of hype, especially from Mark, Super Reviews, and other, you know, reviewers praising this one a lot. I'll have my take on it, and let's start off with the unboxing. As you may have seen in the unboxing, it's pretty nice actually. You get the most important thing, the ear tip case. You got interchangeable termination, just a lot. Like, it's very beautiful pouch here. Overall, it's really nice. The build itself, it's pretty well made, I should say. I mean, it feels really premium in the hand. The cable feels really nice. I mean, they're not tangly or of any sort. It just feels different. It just feels really slick and really nice. Fit wise, it's also good. I don't feel any fatigue. I think it has the standard IM shape. Yeah, it's MMCX though, so I'm not sure if it's a con or a pro for you. A lot of people said that it's a con for them because, you know, it gets loose or something, but the cable is really nice to begin with. I don't think you're gonna be changing the cable anyway, so that's how it is. Moving on to the important part of my review here, and that's why you're watching this, it's the sound. How do these sound? But before that though, I think these are priced around $500. So I think it falls in my 251 to 499 category. I can compare it with some of the sets here in my rec list. But yeah, let's start with the sound. So these are my objective findings, okay? Let's start with the objective first because to take away the bias. So objectively, how it's graphed, how it sounds in my ear without me judging subjectively, if that makes sense. So as you can see there, it doesn't really follow my neutral target. No, that's subjective. Objective, okay. Objective, yeah, you can see there it's almost following the meta tuning. How do I know? Of course, versus the KE4, you can see there the gain peak around 3K and then a gradual decline. There's not really a lot of elevation between 1 to 2K. As you can see there also, the KE4 is much bassier. The Brain Dance has a more neutral approach, and I think the bass cutting maybe around 150. That's pretty low there. So you don't really hear a lot of mid bass in there. You do hear some sub bass. There's a little bit of elevation there in maybe 300 to 500 for vocal fullness, because sometimes I think it's needed here because male vocals can sometimes not really thin, but they just lack the note weight, that masculine note weight. There's a little bit of, is it in the 15K? There's some treble peak in there past 10K that can be perceived as, you know, airy. So starting off with the bass, again, it's not really that rumbly. Like, even if it's sub bass dominant, the bass it's not really the star of the show here. It graphs a lot, but on listening, it's there, but it's not really dominating the whole frequency. Mids are pretty clean on this. I think it's favoring female vocals. And the one thing that I've noticed about the meta tuning is it gives vocals really good spacing. I don't only notice it with the Brain Dance, I noticed it with the Dunu Da Vinci, with the T Pro, with the Cadenza 12, because the Cadenza 12 actually also kind of follows this one here. Look at that. There, that gain there, it just makes, you know, vocals sound a little bit realistic. And it's not different with the Brain Dance actually. At first, you do hear that this is a bright neutral set. I cannot really say that the treble is piercing. It is forward, but surprisingly, they have this quality to them that makes you want to listen to them more. Like, they're sparkly and everything, and it's just not annoying. I'd say the treble is well done in here. So yeah, those are my objective take, okay? Now, moving on to my scoring. So, let's start with the tonality. Tonality on this is, again, it's a meta tuning. Meta tuning for me is a hit or miss. In this case, with the Brain Dance, I think the tonality is pretty pretty nice. With tonality, I'm looking for like character of the earphone or the IM. It's like when you listen to it, you remember it. It leaves an impression, and that's what the brain dance is. When you listen to it, it just leaves an impression. Same with the Dunu SA6, the Dunu SA6 Ultra, timeless. Those earphones leave an impression, and it's not different with the brain dance. My impression is like this is like a bright neutral set. It does favor treble forwardness and treble sparkle, but I like its tonality. I think the tonality in this is a 3. It's just very pleasant. I'm surprised, like I'm giving a 3 on a bright neutral set, but that's how it is. They really sound pleasant. So yeah, tonality, it's nice. It's a 3. Moving on to the bass. Now the bass here, as I've mentioned, it doesn't really have a lot of mid bass. My library consists of metal and what was I listening to? I forgot. I was listening to I think it was Order Taker by Parokya ni Edgar. The drums on the intro, because it's like chop suey, right? It's just very, the bass is there, but it just lacks the engagement. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not really the star of the show here. The bass is not really the star of the show. It's not something that I dislike, but I also don't feel like it's doing something that makes me score it higher, if you know what I mean. So it's not muddying up the mids or anything. It's just that it's also not doing anything good in particular. So the bass for me is just a 2 on this one here. Moving on to the mids. The mids, again, as I've mentioned, it's very clean objectively. Well, subjectively, they sound really nice, especially for female vocals. Male vocals, although I mentioned that it can sound a little bit thin sounding for the males, but I don't really call it thin, kind of like maybe dry. Yes, they don't have the authority to it, like that masculine heft to it, but it's still clean. They still sound males. It's just that it's just a little bit dry. I don't mind because, again, with the meta tuning, there's that vocal space in there that makes it really believable. I think in this case, it's very well done. If it had a little bit of mid bass, it could be better, but again, with the mids on these, like even the instruments, they sound really good. Guitars, the timbre is a little bit light or a little bit probably leaning on the energetic side, but it's still enjoyable. Mids on here, I'll give it a 3. Yes, I like the mids, 3. Moving on to the treble. This is the star of the show, I should say. There's this quality to the treble that it's really addictive in a way that you hear a lot of details that are not piercing. Details are just really presented to you up front, if that makes sense. However, if you've been watching my channel, I'm really particular on cymbal timbre. They're far from being off-sounding, but they're not perfect. And it's evidenced there in like the past 10K peak. There's an elevation there in the 15K. I think they're doing a great job in tuning those microplanars and the BAs. It's really well done with all the details, but maybe the implementation of the treble is just not really for me. So I'm not giving it perfect, but I understand that it's really good. I understand it's good sounding. It's just that kind of treble elevation sometimes doesn't match the library I'm listening to. So for that, I'm giving the treble a 2.5. It's not perfect, but I appreciate how well it's implemented. And moving on to the techs, around this price point, I guess there are ESTs, like the EJ07, I think, or the variations, or I think the HBB Punch. There are ESTs around this price point, and even with the MegaFest, and in this case, they don't have really ESTs, but they have microplanars instead. But even then, tuning-wise, the Brain Dance doesn't have a competition in this price range. Because again, the meta tuning is so new that it looks like all of the tunings are kind of like taken from the same slice of cake, wherein like it's a little bit warmer in flavor. Like the K4, it's not really that different from the Da Vinci and probably the Mega Fest as well, although I haven't really heard it. But this one here, it's like the neutral take on the meta tuning. The thing about the meta tuning is, since it renders vocals really open sounding, I think it's also very sensitive to any boost in the bass and boost in the treble. The meta tuning is like, I think it's pretty really balanced, and any changes on the frequencies, it's gonna show up. And in this case, because of the elevation in the treble, it does sound really high res, but at the same time, I know that it's not really the resolution I'm looking for. Because again, for me, resolution is that naturalism on the sound, and you know, ESTs are really good at that. Maybe a lot of people will enjoy the treble sparkle. I enjoy it, but not as much as EST. So for that, the text, I'm giving it 2.5. So I think that is a total of 13, and 13 in my ranking is, that's 8. Yeah, that's 8. I mean, generally better than other sets in its price range. Very good for the price, but the tonality might not match your preferences. So that's A for me. Yeah, moving on to the comparisons. Neutral though, Soft Ear Studio 4. I think they're around maybe the Studio 4s are cheaper. The Studio 4s are gonna be more vocal forward. It's gonna have a quicker bass. Although it's really surprising because the Studio 4s doesn't have a DD. This one has a DD, but I feel like the Studio 4s have a fuller and more impactful bass. The brain dance is gonna be more treble forward because as you can see, there's the Studio 4s, it's just drops. It's not that it's not detailed in the treble, it's just that it decays naturally. At least for me. Wherein in the brain dance, it just extends, and you know, if you enjoy that kind of treble presentation, then good. Another that I can compare it with would be maybe the Elysian Pilgrim, because it's in the same price range, right? Graph looks like this one here. The Pilgrim, it's not the Melet kind of tuning, but I would say that the Pilgrim sounds more natural in a way. If you really want like more like neutral in a way that instruments and vocals sound natural, I think Pilgrim is the way to go. But if you want neutral in a way that you want treble details, then probably the brain dance is the way to go. They're just both different takes on neutrality. Personally, I prefer the Pilgrim, although I didn't rank it an S, but it's close. Another one is the Apple Performer 8, because it's also neutral. There, it's meta tuning versus Apple's tuning. Apple's tuning is usually like this. They have a low gain approach. This is interesting though, because I mean, the Performer 8 is an S ranker for me, but I think for treble quality, because the Apple Performer 8 is also neutral bright kind of. It has better bass. I think the Apple P8 has better bass, but I think the Brain Dance has better mids, better techs, and more enjoyable treble. Although I feel like the treble forwardness on the Brain Dance is more forward than the Apple, I feel like the quality of the Apple is a little bit rough compared to this one here, where even if it's forward, it's really pleasing to listen to. So yeah, I guess those are my comparisons. If you like my review and my comparisons, consider liking my video or leave a comment down below. If you have any questions, well, does it really make my brain dance? Not really. I mean, Dunu didn't really make my brain dance, but probably the Kima 2 will. Stay tuned for my review on the Kima 2. It's a great set. Brain dance, it's a nice set if it matches your preferences. Bye for now.